Welcome everybody. My apologies. Can I just give an indication? Sounds good. Can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My apologies if it's a minute or so late. We had a staff meeting that was squeezed in between the second and the third period, and we just about finished in time. So I had to close my team session with that group and start with you. I trust that everybody's well. I hope you haven't become lazy since last time that we spoke, because yeah, I can actually get used to the 3-day week thing, but I suppose like the topic for the chapter is as well, it's very much determined by your attitude. I think we've discussed it before very successfully in some countries abroad. They have been able to move to a 4-day working week, although you're getting paid for 5, and productivity has significantly improved because people very much enjoy being rewarded. And as a matter of fact, they got their 5 days work done in 4, which is obviously what every company would like to see. I'm not 100% sure, however, if this is going to happen in or be as effective in our country. Paging through the newspaper yesterday, I saw one of those comic artists who drew a office scenario of the South African, of a typical South African local government office, where everybody was like, one's having takeaways, the other one's reading a newspaper, the other one's sleeping. They're not really doing anything, and the comment was, are they on strike already? Because they are considering to strike from next week on. And then the guy says, no, this is just a normal day. They actually only start striking next week. So it's an attitude, and to link up with what we're going to do today, it very much, the attitude of the customer towards your product is determined by a lot of actions and a lot of factors. And we are going to try and determine through specifically in this chapter, focusing on what forms the backbone of this chapter, and that is the ABC model. And we hopefully after today's session, you'll have a better understanding of what the ABC model is. Let's just get Jessica on board as well. Welcome, Jessica. And any questions at this point before we start with the session? I know this is our only session this week, so yeah, let's make the most of it, and I'd love you to participate as much as you can. For those who are well, none of you are on campus because it's a non-contact session today, but I think you're very glad that it is the case, because it's rather chilly in Cape Town today all of a sudden. And we will rain around as well. I think we've definitely reached that point where the seasons have changed, and I think we've skipped autumn, but we're definitely into the start of winter at the moment, which is quite nice. But it makes it a bit difficult when you're on campus. But it's quite nice to be able to have access to your classes wherever you are. So for those who are very cozy under their duvets, who have not got out of pajamas yet, enjoy. Make sure that you have your cup of coffee available, and join the session and enjoy the session, because that's also very, very important. Right. Let's jump right into it. We know that that the attitudes that we have are very often influenced by other people. You might have the best intention, and you actually have a very positive attitude towards, or you woke up today in a very good spirit, and your attitude towards everything that you do today is very positive. And you just need one person with a negative attitude who, and there are many of those. And to be honest with you, you can probably, it's not difficult to find something every single day of your life to be unhappy about and to complain about. But again, it's that attitude of you know what, I can play the victim the whole time, or I can actually just accept it that that's it. That we are going to have good days and bad days. On our bad days, we just do the best we can. On our good days, we do a bit extra. Can remember when I was still involved with cricket and cricket coaching on one trip to, I think it was the UK. I was in a bus with the Proteas, just arrived. Our flight just arrived from South Africa, and not too far from the airport with the hotel that we were staying. And always the first one to come up with an initiative like this was something like that comes to mind is Hansie Cronje. I know John D. Rhodes was one of them as well. Always looking to rather run to a place than walk or take a bus. And the invitation was immediately offered, guys, who joins me? I'm going to run to the hotel, see you there. Obviously, the youngsters in the team and the new guys to the team were the first ones to join. Later they made the mistake because Hansie never runs from the airport to the hotel. There's always an extra 5 or 10K additional that's added to the route. But his attitude was always, when some of the people later on during the day asked him why he does that, he said, well, he learned very early on in his life, and he's been motivated by some of his teachers as a result. That on a good day, still do what you can, because you are going to, on a bad day, still do what you can, because you're always going to have bad days. But you're going to have good days as well, as long as on those good days you do a bit extra. And obviously today, the fact that I ran from the airport to the hotel means that it was a good day for me. But it wasn't necessarily going to be a good day for all of you. I think it's attitude very often affects other people, and that's why it's so important, because you can have the best laid plans set for a particular group of consumers, and there's one individual in maybe a reference group or in a family or in a classroom, or maybe just somebody that you bumped into in the supermarket who's a negative comment or affects your attitude, your mood and your attitude, and then it rubs off, and for the rest of the day you also have a different attitude. But I think the best attitude that we can have is to and we've heard it, and it's not a pun that's overused, is to focus on the things that we can control and not worry about the things that we can't. Our attitudes will affect the way in which we judge and react other people, and not just other people, but also other objects and obviously products and events and brands. And therefore it plays such a major role in our everyday life, and it makes it very challenging, but equally an essentially important aspect for marketers to study about consumers. If we study our attitudes of our consumers, they will have some form of value for us as marketers. The most importantly is it will answer questions like, will our customers accept our product, for instance? And it will help you to also gauge if your target audience is reached, or if it's not reached, or if you've actually used the correct theme for your marketing campaign to be able to communicate with your potential customers. It will help also with your targeting the correct market segment, and it's therefore not an exercise that, you know what, we didn't know what else to add, but we think that it might be important if we know what the attitude of the customer is, because the attitude is, at the end of the day, regardless of what you believe and what your values are, because we know, and we've determined that in previous chapters, that our values are what's important to us, and if it's important for you to finish your course, because that will give you'll be the first one in your family to graduate of post-matric, and it will also open doors for you in your career, then fantastic. If you believe that you have to work hard every day to achieve that, also fantastic. But your attitude is the one that's going to determine how you actually put those values and beliefs into action, or not, so to speak. In marketing terms, as it says there on the screen, an attitude is a person's enduring favorable or unfavorable evaluation, or their emotional feelings and their actions towards a particular object or idea. And this is pretty much the foundation of your ABC model as well, which we'll attend to later in this chapter. In easier terms, we can also say that it is the way that we think, the way that we feel, and the way that we act towards aspects of a commercial nature, if we put it in the context of business. Can attitudes be learned? Often a question that is asked. Yes, attitudes are learned. We form our attitudes as a result of our direct experiences. Why would I have a negative attitude about something if I've only had good experiences with that particular product or brand? We also form our attitudes based on the information that we require from other people who share with us. Remember from the last chapter, there are two different ways that we learn. We can learn conceptually, and that is from listening to our friends and how they've experienced a particular brand or product, and they share their good or bad experience with us. We learn in that capacity, but we also learn through our own experiences. So both of that. And then obviously, and very importantly, and we're confronted with that on a daily basis, is the mass media that provide us with such a lot of information that in different forms, that it just adds sometimes to our confusion, but very importantly, it also shapes our attitude, or helps to shape our attitude, especially where commercials use a lot of or create a situation where your emotions are very much activated. I think people remember one of the best commercials I can remember, and it's way before your time, but if you want to do a Google search on it, it's the VW commercial, the VW Combi, which is not being manufactured in the same manner as it has been over many years. But over many years, they've combined a lot of commercials that they've had, and they've told a story about where these people were always VW people, and how they grew up, and how the son eventually finished school and got his license, and his dad passed on his original VW to him as a sort of a graduation gift. It plays a lot of on the emotion, because it shares different phases of the lives of different generations, which is obviously very tactical and strategic, and effective to use by marketers, especially because we know that the three components of the ABC model refer to, among other things, our emotions, our feelings. We tend to be rather consistent with our attitudes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that our attitudes can't change or won't change. We're almost sure of one thing, and that is that they will change. We're not going to necessarily always have exactly the same attitude for the rest of our lives. As I said earlier, differentiate between our beliefs and our values, because they are the ones that shape our attitudes. It is not the same as your attitude, it just helps to shape your attitude. In others, we definitely have more beliefs than we actually have attitudes. But obviously, out of all those, we'll have the fewest values, because the values are the things that's important to us. But we'll definitely have different beliefs and more beliefs than we'll have values. And our attitudes are combinedly shaped by what we believe is important, what we believe is important to us, supported by what we value most. Let's have a look at the ABC model, just to put everything into context. This ABC model quite simply refers to the following. If we can, the acronym is broken down. The affect component, the behavioral component, and the cognitive component. It's quite simple. The affect component, or affective component as it's referred to as well, has to do with your emotions and your feelings. Your cognitive component focuses on your beliefs and your knowledge on something, about something, and your behavior is what puts both these other two components of the model, your emotions, your feelings, your beliefs, your knowledge, puts that into action. It probably should have been called the ACB model, because that's usually the order in which things happen. But obviously ABC has a better ring to it. But the action is not necessarily something that is taken before we have not completed the A and the C. However, regardless of the situation, or not regardless of the situation, as a result of your situation or the type of product, one of these three components are always going to be the dominant one. It will depend on, as I said, the nature of your situation and what type of product or service is involved. Right. Let's take them one by one. That illustration is just a way of, some people prefer to learn through pictures, others prefer to have bullet points. I prefer a combination of both. If we look at how our attitude is shaped towards a particular product, this is just what we said on the previous page, just displayed in a different manner. The left-hand side, our initiator comes from the marketer's side. It's the action that's taken by the marketer that provides a stimulus for one of your senses. And now the different components, if we apply the different components, the ABC model, to this particular situation, our emotions and our feelings about a specific attribute is the one that is now being activated. It is put into, it links with our beliefs right at the bottom, the cognitive component, and then it leads to our actions that we take, which will then determine if we are going to have a positive or negative attitude towards a product, and as a result of that, we'll buy that product or not buy that product. Any questions by anybody at this stage? Everybody's still there? Everybody's still awake? Let me just scroll down and see if there's anybody who's maybe nothing in the chat box. All good. I'm assuming everything's good because I'm not hearing any replies. All fine? All still good? Thumbs up. Thank you very much, Lilia. Appreciate that. Somebody's alive. Thank you. Let's look at the three different components, and then we'll finish off the components with an example, and then put it into context. Our affective component, for instance, because the affective component deals with our feelings and our emotions, it is the one that is very easy to trigger by marketers, because it can very easily be activated. Our emotions and our feelings can very easily be activated through the stimulation of one or more of our senses, for instance. But your experience in for instance, having a family meal in a family restaurant, based on what you anticipate the experience might be, and then there's an incident that happened that resulted in you, your feelings maybe being affected, or that leaves you rather emotional. Maybe it is the whole day you've been rather. I found it was in my case it was like yesterday. I had a very interesting but very clear and emotional dream the previous evening. And the whole of yesterday I was very emotional. I was more sensitive to situations that activated my emotions, and it could be something similar to that. And then me and my family went out for a meal, or goes out for a meal, and then you see a family having a birthday celebration, and everybody's enjoying themselves, and it actually activates a certain emotion in you, which is usually a good emotion, and that sort of immediately puts you in a different mindset, and whatever, regardless of what happens the rest of the evening, your evening becomes more enjoyable as well. It can actually be the exact opposite as well, as impacts on your experiences negatively. But the affective component, usually the one that is activated first, our emotions and our feelings, because it is linked to the stimulus of our senses, or more than one of our senses. The behavioral component, specifically concerned with the probability that the consumer will act in a specific way, regards to the focus of their attitude. As your behavioral component indicates, certain behavior will take place based on the outcome of your affective and cognitive component. Your emotions and your beliefs would lead to a particular action, and also similarly referred to as a particular behavior, how you will act in a particular situation. We build knowledge about a particular product over a period of time. And this is stored and hopefully through proper activation of specific emotions, is then acted upon, but it is not necessarily, or not all the information that we store is actually necessarily equally important to us, and used, and we as marketers don't know what information the customer has stored in the first place, and we also don't know what of that information that was stored is actually going to be used by the customer. A customer who feels very positive about a particular brand, obviously, is not necessarily going to buy that brand. It just means that they have a very positive attitude towards that brand. I was for many years an Android user, and now I'm an Apple iPhone user. Does it mean that because I'm currently using an iPhone that I are going to necessarily only support that particular product? I still have a very strong affinity for Samsung, but it doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily switch now back to an Android. I'm quite happy with what I have, but again, it means that I still have a positive attitude towards Samsung, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily now, when I can upgrade, switch back to Samsung. And that is sometimes what is difficult for a marketer to accurately estimate, because as I said, there's no guarantee. The fact that I like the product, the fact that I like the brand, is not necessarily going to result in an action, or my action or behavior to be to buy that product necessarily. Third component of the ABC model is the cognitive component. That refers specifically to the beliefs the customer have about an object or a product, and that's very much determined by and influenced by the knowledge that the customer have about a product. We will not believe that the product is going to actually do what it says it's going to do until we've actually obtained more knowledge. Knowledge equals learning through our own experiences or through other people sharing their experiences with us. That's how we form a belief about a product. The knowledge can take the form of beliefs. In other words, it the individual believes that the focus of his her attitude has a particular attributes, then it will be so, yes. If you believe that, and if at the bottom of the screen we've got a video clip that you've probably seen before. It's where they take a bottle, 500 ml Coca-Cola, and then a 500 ml Coke Zero, for instance, or a sugar-free Coke product, and they heat it up in a pan on the stove, and basically the classic Coke, traditional Coke, becomes a mushy kind of gooey substance at the bottom of your of the pan. It looks unhealthy if you see it, and that's because of the sugar content in it, because that's basically all that's left. And with the Coke Zero, exactly the opposite. There's almost nothing left in the bottom of the pan after it's been heated, because of the low or no sugar content in that particular can or bottle. So people can, as a result of the belief that it's good for you to have a sugar-free drink. I don't know why they want to take caffeine out of it as well. I don't know what's left if you're going to take the sugar and the caffeine. I see now you also have a no caffeine, no sugar Coca-Cola on the shelves. I mean, really? I mean, why don't you just drink water? As long as it's not water from the taps in the CBD until it's been cleared. For those who haven't heard, don't drink from the taps if you are from the southern suburbs or the Atlantic seaboard, Muizenberg, Tableview, those areas, Melkbos, Blouberg, waters apparently a bit off. But no, if you believe that it's in your best interest to have, and we all know that sugar in your diet should be limited. If you believe it's going to benefit you, then obviously you will support. You'll have a positive attitude towards a particular brand, which is or not particular brand necessarily, but a particular product, which is a sugar-free product, and you will obviously focus on that when you do your purchases. When we furthermore break down our cognitive component into the two types of beliefs, we can conclude that we have informational beliefs, which is very much associated with the attributes of the product. For instance, if we look at the previous example of a soft beverage, for instance, like a Coca-Cola or any of those soft drinks. The kilojoule content, for instance, the vitamin content, for instance. If you look at a pack of muesli, for instance, I do when I shop specifically look at the different ingredients as well as the vitamin content and which vitamins actually is included in a particular product. So our informational beliefs is specifically related to the attributes that the products will provide us. In other words, what is in the product, and where our evaluative beliefs is more specifically focusing on and referring to the benefits that we are going to get from those particular attributes that we've identified in number one. Benefits for buying a sugar-free drink, for instance, would be that we'll have a reduced tooth decay, we'll have a healthier body. Those are all benefits that we will experience as a result of a particular attribute being present or absent in a product. What you have on the screen in front of you is just, again, surmising what we've just did. Again, with a beverage product in mind, just to categorize your attributes and your benefits. We know that the attributes for a beverage would include natural ingredients and sweeteners and the kilojoules, the vitamin content, and the benefits could be anything from being nutritional to refreshing to suitable for the whole family. So just to another example of what we have covered on our previous slide. If we take the following sentence and break it down, I want you to indicate to me which you would say, if you read that sentence and you apply the ABC model to that sentence, what part of the sentence would be our affective component? What part of that sentence would refer to our cognitive component? And what part of that sentence would refer to our behavioral component, to cover all three of the ABC? What would you say? Anybody? What part is our of that sentence is referred to our affective component, our beliefs, our emotions and our feelings? Anybody?
So you feel relaxed,
Okay.
as an emotion.
Yes, as an emotion. Do you think that feeling relaxed is maybe a benefit?
Yes, so I think it would be a benefit from doing yoga.
Let's see if you're correct, Warren. That's our emotion and our feeling. Okay, I love yoga. Oh, absolutely, I love yoga. I've started to doing it myself, and I'm not. This is not just. I'm just not just reading the sentence. I've actually started doing it as well, and it was part of my rehabilitation after my knee surgery, and actually quite enjoy it. I can already feel that there's a lot more. That I'm able to do a lot more. It is really something that I personally enjoy a great deal. But yeah, if we break that sentence up, we'll see that our behavioral component obviously is that because of our love for yoga and the fact that we believe it's going to help us to relax, we will go to yoga class every week. That's the action. Is that example clear to everybody? Anything that anybody wants to add at this stage? What are your attitudes towards a particular brand or product at the moment, maybe, if you want to share that with us? Nobody has. What is your attitude towards your studies at the moment? Or just tick the boxes? Do you have a positive or negative attitude towards your studies at the moment?
So I feel like at the moment, it's become like quite hectic with assignments due, tests due, and things like that. So at the moment, I feel like it would be a negative like feeling towards studies, but I feel like in the upcoming weeks where things are less like hectic, we'll enjoy studies again, and it'll be a positive like look on studies.
Okay. I think I've also opened on the on Canvas a survey, because there are regular surveys that can be conducted. You'll find it on your model schedule under those headings where you have assignments and quizzes. There's always one for surveys. I think I've activated the survey option. So it's important to share these things because, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I want you to share what you are experiencing as positives and negatives, because that's how we get better. If we know where we are making mistakes, if we know where we can actually do certain things that we are doing well, we can do better. But I felt I had a similar feeling, Warren, at the moment, where I thought, you know what, there's a lot of things that it's not because we had a shorter week, because I worked every single day of the weekend anyway. So the 4 days weren't 4 days that I just actually relaxed and sat back and did nothing, because I mean, I'm not good at doing nothing anyway. I'll sit and stare out the window for 2 minutes and then I'll grab a book and read, because I mean, I just can't do nothing. But I think it's you've hit the nail on the head, and I think it's a new thing that we all had to get used to because of the time that was available to us to complete our semester in, as a result of our COVID regulations, was the fact that especially doing formal tests in the same time as where we continue with submission of assignments, and we continue with normal live classes and online classes as well. I think it was something new to get used to. I know that it's definitely not going to be the case with your summative assessments in June, but I felt that for me personally, it was also okay, right. And everybody just thinks, okay, right, it's always the stuff on the one party, not necessarily on the other. But if my attendance in a particular class is less than 10% because the students are writing a test today on a different module, they're not going to attend the class because their priority should be the test. And I think that's what that's something that I personally would also because I'm going to do the survey myself. I'm also going to add a few things that I feel that not that we don't have other platforms to do that, but I find it's important to document these things. So I can understand, yes, you do not have a negative attitude towards your studies at the moment, but you definitely have mixed feelings and emotions regarding what's currently happening. And yes, it is a difficult and it is a busy period. It's almost as if it's almost like you're running a marathon every day. I can understand that and have a lot of sympathy with that because just remember, if you're running a marathon, I'm running it with you. Okay. Yes.
Sir, I just wanted to ask, just on a personal basis,
Yes.
do you think it's possible to have a full-time job and complete this year successfully?
Full-time job as a 9 to 5, or what are the specific working conditions and hours?
Full-time job as a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, weekends off. Yeah.
You know what? Asking me is probably not the right person to ask because I've since I completed my last degree in 1990. I did a few short courses in between. I've never put myself in a position again. I was a point number of years ago, 5 years ago, where I thought, you know what, right, both my kids are now in high school, so they are a bit more independent, and I don't have to ask them, have you done your homework? I don't have to assist them with their homework. I actually can't assist them with their homework. Therefore, I'm going to continue my studies because I always wanted to do a PhD or maybe an additional master's degree to the two I have. And then I started, and to be honest with you, I've started my PhD 3 times already, and I've not got past chapter 1. So it is difficult carrying a full-time job and studying. But then, having said that, that's just me personally. My wife is 10 years younger than I am, but she's also in her late 40s, and she has she's one module away from completing her 3rd master's degree in 3 years at 3 different universities. And she's also, as I said, have a family life. She's a very active individual. She still also teaches about 6 or 7 spinning classes. So the day is a longer day, and again, that's she also has a full-time occupation, and it means that it's very difficult to. I think at the end of the day, to me, it would be a question of what is your greatest motivation for doing that? Do I think it's possible? I think anything is possible. I think if I persisted maybe a bit longer, it could have worked for me as well. Maybe as a result of the fact that my wife was also studying, it wasn't who's the backup if in the household if support was required. So maybe that influenced my decision not to push hard to do it. And I think it's very much different from one individual to the other, and one circumstances are different to the other. At one stage, I was doing 3 jobs and for 3 different companies, and I still found time to work. Coaching 2 evenings a week at a sports club, and then also spending the whole of the Saturday on the sports field as the manager, coach / umpire for that particular team. And then sometimes if we go to provincial trials and regional trials, that same sport is played on a Saturday on a Sunday because there's no other time. I think it's at the end of the day it becomes to me, the important question is actually to ask: is it advisable to do it? Is it possible to do it? I would link that to the motivation and what your motivation is for considering something like that, or for anybody who's considering to do a combination like that. I know that a great motivator as a result of the pandemic has been that people do not have a choice. They have to go out and work full time. And would it be possible to complete it? I think under normal circumstances, probably pre-COVID, it probably wouldn't have been possible, because if you miss a class, you miss a class, and There's no, I mean, you're on your own. You just need to have a good friend with good handwriting and who make good notes. But now the fact that sessions are recorded, that there are additional resources available, that the exam that you have to write is not necessarily limited to a certain time and day, but it's available for the entire day. I think it opens more opportunities to do a combination of full-time employment and studies. As a matter of fact, on one of my other courses, I have a student who's 44 years old, has a full-time occupation, 2 kids in primary school, and he signed up to do the course. And I could see sometimes that he's not logged into a session, but I know that he will watch the recording at some point. But yeah, it is possible, and I know what his motivation is. I'm not going to necessarily share it with you because I don't have his consent to do that. But again, it's an example that it is possible. Yes, it just depends. I think mainly on the personal motivation for and the reason for wanting to do that, or having to do it.
Thank you very much, sir. Highly appreciated.
You're more than welcome. And you know what? I think it's almost, I can see how every time my wife gets her results back, and I know that she's worked till whatever time at night to complete it, and she gets her result back, it's like small little victories all the time. And that almost motivates you to continue doing it, and actually, before you know it, time's passed. I spoke to a lady yesterday. She's a cashier at Pick n Pay when I did some shopping. And we've spoken 3 times now. She saw my Stadio face mask and started talking about it. And I think she commented, I look tired. I said, yeah, I've been doing a lot of marking and setting exam papers and stuff like that. And obviously the next question was, are you involved? Are you a teacher? And I said, no, I'm involved as a lecturer at a university. And she said, you know what? And she's in her late 40s as well. She said she's always wanted to continue her studies, but always postponed it. And now, just before lockdown, one of her friends actually did pursue that and started studying. And as a result, the fact that it's now 2021, we're almost halfway through 2021. She's graduating at the end of this year. I think a lot of people, as a result of COVID last year and lockdown and stuff, actually started studying because they had the time to do it. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's never easy when you're in the middle of it, but it's very rewarding. And I think yes, you'll be. To a certain extent, you'll be studying for the rest of your life anyway, because in every work situation, you're continuously upskilling yourself, and your employer requires you to upskill yourself, and you want to learn more about a certain subject. So you never actually stop learning. But formally, the fact that you do not have to sit an exam and complete an assignment makes it a bit easier. But I think the purpose is exactly the same at the end of the day. But yeah. It definitely would be possible to do it with the current format. I'm not exactly sure what all the other modules on this particular course is, but I would much rather. Excuse me?
So I just wanted to find out, sorry to cut you off, will the exams be continuing the way that they're going now? So will they be open throughout the day, even in June?
I'm going to give you an unofficial answer, and I'm going to give you confirm officially next week, because just when I was sitting preparing for the session and I was logging off the staff meeting session, and I saw that there was an email that came through about a session that we're going to have tomorrow about the summative exams in June. I know that initially there was a possibility that it might be on-campus or contact sessions, but it appears to me, I just read the heading of the email. I haven't read the content of the email yet. That it is going to remain a whole day open option on the day of the exam. When there's a summative involved, which is an exam and not a test, there will be no other contact sessions in that period of your exam. You can just focus on your exams like you have in the past in your first year. But yes, I'm very confident that we will continue in the same fashion as we are familiar with at the moment, because everybody's circumstances are different, and I would like obviously to give you a formal indication rather sooner than later, because obviously that's going to also impact on the decision that you want to take.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. I highly appreciate it.
No problem. No. Always a pleasure. Anybody else? Any other questions? I want to start something new, because our next session and for the rest of the chapter, we'll be looking at all the different, more examples, for instance, on the chapter, on the ABC model, the different functions of our attitudes, which is again a section of the work that is, I would say, less important than another section, but I'm not necessarily going to ask you an essay question on the different functions of attitude, for instance, and say compare the 4 functions for me and in the essay for 40 marks kind of thing. It's so again, it's work that's of interest, because it supports what we've done thus far in this chapter, but it's not necessarily a component that I'm extremely worried about, that the content is of such a nature that will be that is more confusing than anything else. So for that particular reason, I think I'd much rather just finish where we were, and then we can continue with the rest of the chapter when we resume again, first period next Tuesday, the 4th of May. Believe it or not, it's the 4th of May already. Where have the time gone? I usually used to work towards the 1st of May as a sort of a guideline, because I know that's Workers' Day. And then beyond that, apart from 16th of June, Youth Day, there's pretty much no public holidays left for the rest of the year until Christmas. Yeah, so almost the honeymoon is over for long weekends and stuff like that. But yeah, here we are already. And believe it or not, we're into May next week. But no, I'd much rather start and continue with this chapter next Tuesday. According to our schedule, it's still within our time frame to complete the syllabus and leave you with sufficient time for us to do proper revision and preparation for the exam, as well as you have a study week as well between the 14th and 18th, where there will be no classes, formal classes, no new work done. It's you, and if there are any remedial sessions, one-on-one sessions that you want to schedule, it can be done in that time. But more about that later as we progress. But we're doing good with our time management of the module. So therefore, I'm not going to start a new section and then have to basically revisit it tomorrow, next Tuesday when we resume again. So if nobody has any other questions, I think we can call it a day. Yeah, enjoy the weekend. Believe it or not, it's Friday again tomorrow. Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll chat again after the weekend.
Thanks. Have a good weekend.
The same to you. Thank you very much, Warren.
Thank you so much, sir. Highly appreciate it. Have a blessed weekend.
I'm going to try my best. Thank you very much. And for those Man United supporters, we are coming for you on Sunday.